Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where Karens are the center of the universe and they can do anything they want. And in this episode, a woman doesn't care if OP's dying, guys. She wants her food served. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. The last few years, I've made pre-filled Christmas stockings, Easter baskets, book bags, etc. And I sell them on Marketplace in 3 sizes: mini for $15, a standard for $25, and a mega-sized for $50, which includes an additional wrapped gift. I make a decent profit, and most people appreciate skipping the shopping, especially single folks who otherwise wouldn't have a surprise stocking. So with that said, a woman messages me on the 23rd for 6 mega stockings. I spent well over an hour getting details to personalize, and much longer to put it all together. The woman did ask for a discount, which is fine for being a big order, and we agreed on $250. I let her know that they were ready, reaffirmed the price, and we planned to meet up. I had also put together a free mini stocking since she said she likely wouldn't have one herself. So we meet up, and almost immediately she says, "Hey, I hope you have lots of Christmas spirit this year because my family and I really need it." Now, I sell on Marketplace all the time, and I know what's coming next, and I'm sure you do too. Wouldn't you know, her family's been through every possible disaster this year. But her kids are perfect angels, but they also all have cancer, a dingo ate her baby, etc, etc. She then admits that she never planned to pay me, and she figured if I'd already done all the work and knew they needed them, that I would just give them to her for free. Well, she figured extremely wrong. I put the stockings back in my trunk and I drove off. I hadn't even pulled in my driveway before my phone was dinging non-stop. The woman sent me photos of her kids, videos of them crying saying I ruined Christmas, pictures of her fuel gauge on empty, a nearly empty fridge, screenshots of her bank balance, and more than 30 messages demanding that I do the right thing and stop ruining Christmas for her kids. The woman had the nerve to complain that I didn't give her the mini stocking since I'd already planned to give it away for free. And the funny thing was, she came from further than I did, and she didn't have her kids with her, which means she had the videos on her phone already. I blocked her after sending one message. The message said, "Hey, I wouldn't have minded at all gifting to your kids if your need is genuine and had you asked instead of trying to manipulate me. You ruin Christmas for your kids yourself if you think the only thing that matters is the gifts. Your kids deserve better, but it's on you to provide it. Kindly go shove yourself up your own ass." On Christmas morning, my emotions got the better of me, and I wondered if the kids really were going without, and I used an alternate account to check her Facebook. And what I saw was shocking. I saw stacks of gifts, a free feast, huge amounts of gift cards, you could barely see her tree, and of course, complaints about all the charities that provided the bare minimum for her kids. Scrolling Marketplace this morning, I find her selling a ton of brand new toys and kids' clothes. I should have taken screenshots, but I was irritated, and I deleted all the messages immediately and blocked her. I hate how the holidays have become a magnet for slime bags like this, looking to exploit anyone and anything they can. Honestly guys, OP's response was perfect, and what a scummy a-hole that woman is, taking advantage of people during the holidays. And what makes me so angry, guys, is that the woman outright admitted that she never even planned to pay OP, and just figured that if she told some sob story like her kids having cancer, that she'd get stuff for free. Like, you guys know I read a lot of stories on this channel, and once in a while, my jaw still drops, guys, because the entitlement never ceases to amaze me. All I can say is that woman better watch out, because joking about stuff like that to get what she wants, karma might get her one day. And I just pray it's sooner than later, because I really dislike scummy people, guys. So I'm a mess this morning. Last night, the cat that I've had for 10 years died. I grew up with him, and he was my baby. I've never felt so hopeless and hurt as I did last night, and I'm still a huge mess. I can't believe he's gone. So on to the story or rant or whatever. I work at a bakery, and I'm much slower than usual this morning, and I just feel weak. I was behind, and I didn't quite have the donuts ready when my assistant manager asked me what's wrong. So I told her and just broke down. And at the same time, this rude Karen walks up to the counter, and she just yells, hello, where are all the donuts? I need some donuts. I asked the assistant manager to help her and escaped to the back to contain myself. The assistant manager was talking to the lady, trying to help her. And that's when I hear the lady loudly scream, so what's her problem? I need donuts. She shouldn't be working here if she's so useless. I didn't hear the assistant manager's response, but the next thing I hear is Karen screaming, well, it's just a stupid animal. She shouldn't be so upset. Just send her home if she's not working. Followed by the woman demanding donuts again. And I'm thinking, goodness, just F off. I know some people don't see their pets as family, but a bit of empathy does go a long way. I just lost a huge part of my life, my baby, and I'm so upset right now. So yeah, the post ends right there, guys, but customers like that Karen are the worst people ever, aren't they? It's like they forget that employees are human too. In my opinion, the assistant manager should have told her to get out at that point because it's ridiculous what happened. And if you think that one was absurd, listen to this next one, guys. Nothing will stop this Karen from being served. Okay, so I'm very allergic to peanuts. I can't touch them, I can't eat them, I can't go into a Texas roadhouse because the peanut dust in the air sends me out on a gurney, and that's no joke, it's happened. With that said, I work in a restaurant. So around 9 o'clock, or whenever the sit-in customers kind of wind down, David, the sushi chef, will actually make a really nice, authentic Chinese dish for dinner. And I'll munch on it while doing some cleaning chores, or in between tables because that's all we've eaten all day at that point. The owner doesn't keep anything peanut in the store because of how severe my allergy is, and she doesn't want to have to tell a new chef each time that I'll fall over dead in like 30 minutes flat. But tonight, David had brought peanuts from home, and I didn't know, and David doesn't know about my situation. I have two tables. One is a group of college guys drinking and eating sushi, not really needing me too heavily, and another is a middle-aged couple that I had just sat down before my food was put on my station. I get the couple's drinks to them, explain our menu, and leave them to their browsing while I go steal a few bites. Now, since I don't eat peanuts regularly, I don't really know the taste of them when they're prepped in a soup dish like what David made. So being hungry, I gulp down like half the bowl before noticing a small little peanut chunk on my spoon. And that's when hell breaks loose. I don't have medical insurance, which means, ta-da, no EpiPens for me. I'm scrambling on the store phone, trying to get a hold of the owner so she can come and I can leave. And I'm also on my cell phone with 911, telling them to please let the hospital know that I'll be arriving any second, and this is seriously bad. I also let Chef David know that he has to watch the tables until the owner shows up because I'm allergic to nuts, you jackwagon. David's sitting there confused, like, allergy? I don't know allergy. He barely speaks English, and I don't know how to translate that to Mandarin. So I look at him dead in the eyes, and at this point, I'm all 50 shades of blotchy and swollen, and my tongue's pretty useless. And I go, peanuts, kill me, and start to walk out the door. I had totally forgotten that I had tables, and as I grab my bag, the middle-aged woman stands up and she goes, excuse me, where do you think you're going? Are you going to take our order any time tonight? We're hungry. And at that, I'm seriously dumbfounded. I feel how big my face is. It itches, it burns, and it's all around horrible, and she wants me to take her order? I muster what I can and say, I'm sorry ma'am, I'm having an extreme allergic reaction. David here can take your order for you. The Karen screams, that guy can't even speak English. You need to take our order before you leave. I tell the woman, ma'am, you're literally killing me by keeping me here. David will take your order. I then start to walk away when I hear Karen say, seriously? We know the owner of this dirty little place, and when she hears about this, you'll be fired instantly. At this point, one of the college guys stands up and he goes, ma'am, you need to sit down and shut up or leave. He then decides that I can't drive like this and he drives me to the hospital. Apparently, Karen never said a peep to the owner. Whether it was her husband or the other college guys that kept her in check, I don't know. But the owner gave me the next 2 days off to recuperate with pay. But that's my story on how I almost died on the floor of a sushi restaurant because some Karen really wanted some raw salmon. Holy, what a scary situation that was. And I'm glad OP made it through that crazy allergic reaction. But guys, that's wild though, right? Like how Karen did not have a care in the world aside from take my order right now. Then you can die. With that said though, I know EpiPens are super expensive without insurance, but being severely allergic to something like peanuts, it's worth it to have one around just in case you encounter a crazy Karen who doesn't let you go to the hospital. So my ex-girlfriend and I were together for about 2 years, and her mom was a big part of the reason why we broke up. This woman was entitled and narcissistic. This story happened not too long before our breakup. And to understand the story and the situation it revolves around, you need to know certain things. My ex-girlfriend's grandparents are living about 200 kilometers away from where she lives. She frequently drove there to visit them, and so did her parents, with her younger siblings. So a couple of days before the trip, my ex-girlfriend's mom, who we'll call Karen, gets into an accident with her car. The car was basically a write-off at that point and wasn't even in the state to be pulled up on a tow truck. Although both her and the guy who was involved in the accident escaped pretty much unharmed, the car was absolutely wrecked. But enough talking, here we go. My ex and I were visiting her parents. It was Sunday, and my ex's parents and their kids planned to spend their holiday by visiting the grandparents the following week. There was just one tiny problem concerning that plan. The car they planned to use for the trip wasn't much more than a pile of metal, but luckily, ex's mom had the perfect idea to save their holiday plans, and thus, this conversation began. So my ex and I enter the living room, and Karen says, "Hi there, how are you?" I'm about to tell her that I'm fine when she cuts in and says, "Anyways, whatever you're gonna say, I'm sure you're okay, so listen, I need something from you." I respond, "Yeah, as I was going to say, I'm fine. What exactly do you need?" I just want to note that she usually asked me or us for pretty much everything, so I was very used to this "I need something from you." She then says, "We need your car." I say to her, "Well, that's quite the big ask. Why do you need my car?" Karen says, "Listen, I told you weeks ago that we're visiting my parents tomorrow. I don't have a car anymore to drive there, so we need yours." I tell her I can't give you my car. I have to work all week, and I need it to get there. Besides, technically my insurance doesn't pay anything if someone else besides me or my parents has an accident with this car. Hearing that, Karen says, "Well, I don't see the problem. Just give us your car. We're not gonna get into another accident. The odds of that are impossible. We have 2 little children in the car this time. We'll be extra careful. We need it far more than you do." I try to tell her again and say, I don't think you understand. I need that car to be able to work. I have to get to my workplace, visit customers, take care of their problems, and get back to my workplace. Up to 10 times a day if it's a busy one. Besides, my insurance still doesn't allow you to drive the car. I can't afford to pay the damages if there's an accident. Hearing that, Karen says, "Oh, come on. Your workplace is like 10 miles away from your home. You can get there by bicycle or something. You're always saying how you like to keep fit and healthy, so it wouldn't be too bad for you to bike to work every day. It'll only help you when you give us your car." I say to her, with all due respect, even if I'd be willing to get to work by bicycle for a week, which I'm not, you still can't drive my car. I can't afford to pay for any accidents you might cause, and I know that you won't. At this point, she loses it, shouting at me saying, "You know as well as I do that I'm perfectly capable of driving a car without any accidents. I'm not asking again." I say to her, "If you're capable of driving a car, then how come I own a car that's perfectly fine? And you've already destroyed the second car since I've known your daughter." She then shouts at me saying, "Don't you effing talk to me like that. I dare you to say that I've been in an accident one more time. I dare you. I dare you to call me a bad driver one more time. Both accidents weren't my fault." Now, I don't know much about the first accident and whose fault it was, but I know a lot about the second one. She ran a red light and someone T-boned her. At this point, her husband chimes in and says, "Honey, calm down a little. I'm sure we can sort this out if we just stay calm and talk about it. Maybe we can rent a car or..." She then interrupts him and says, "No one asked you. And you know as well as I do that we can't afford to rent a car, so we need his." She then continues yelling at me saying, "Now just give us the car. We need it way more than you do. There's no way we're missing this trip." So give me the effing car keys already. You have no idea how life works, and you have no idea how important it is for my kids to see their family. So give me your car. At this point, I tell her I'm leaving right now. I look at her daughter and say, you can come with me or you can stay, but I won't stay here more than another minute. My ex looks at me and her mom as I start walking away. After a couple of seconds, she follows me outside, mumbling, "Goodbye, Mom." Karen follows us down the hallway, screaming at us, saying, "Don't you dare ever come back here again. None of you. I'll swap the effing locks and burn all your stuff. If you leave now, you won't be coming back here ever again." So with that, we leave the house, with my ex slamming the front door. We then get inside the car, and I sit down and buckle up, and that's when I see Karen in the rear view. She's waving her hand, holding a smartphone. She then screams at us saying, "You forgot your phone. Here, take it." She then throws the phone and it hits my car with a thud. She then runs towards us as I start the engine and drives off. She keeps shouting, "Don't you ever come back," while waving the phone she threw in her hand. My ex says, "I don't think that was my phone. I left mine right in the car right here." She said that while picking it up from the cup holder where she left it. I ask her, "So whose phone was it?" She tells me, "I don't know, but me and Dad both own iPhones, so she might have confused them. I hope the screen's not broken." I just burst out in laughter while leaving the village where they live. After that, my ex's parents took the train to visit the grandparents. After a week, they came back, and the whole "don't you dare ever come back here again" thing was so forgotten, as her mom didn't feel like taking care of her children and she needed someone to babysit. Oh man, guys, that mother seems like a wonderful person, doesn't she? And the thought of her breaking her husband's phone while throwing it at OP is hilarious. With that said though, OP should have stopped after saying no, like it's his car, and he doesn't have to waste time giving any reasons as to why he won't let anyone borrow it. And guys, I also love her logic though. I just got into an accident yesterday, so it's impossible to have another one so soon. Like yeah, that's exactly what a bad driver would say, Karen. So my parents are absolute saints. They purchased a 4-bedroom house in the early 1980s with a property that borders an elementary school. In the 1980s, while they were planning on starting a family, this was a brilliant move. Both school and a playground basically in the backyard. It's a lovely, sleepy neighborhood in a great district. Fast forward to the early 2000s, my brother and I were in high school. The school was absolutely overcrowded, and the district decides to save funds by slashing busing. If you don't live more than 5 miles from the school, you don't get a bus ride. And the busing goes from 10 buses to 2. Thus, the stage is set for over 200 cars, filled with the worst entitled parents descending on our sleepy neighborhood every day, twice a day, parking all over the place in oversized SUVs, trucks, on narrow streets that can barely handle 2 sedans passing each other. Tensions between the neighborhood and the school escalated steadily, and one day, an ambulance couldn't get down the road to respond to this elderly neighbor's fall due to all these crap entitled parents basically blocking the road. I tried to convince my parents to move, but the housing bubble had just burst. With all that, one of our neighbors on the streets is a disabled woman. She's a lovely, sweet, older woman, but she has problems getting around and numerous medical appointments. But no problem. She had a slightly over-width driveway to make it easy for her to get in and out of her car. She came out of her house one afternoon on her way to an appointment, only to find that someone had blocked her entire driveway. Fortunately, the driver, the Karen of the story, was still in the vehicle. So my neighbor approached, gently knocked on the window, and asked the woman to kindly move her vehicle to unblock the driveway. Of course, Karen decides that the appropriate response was no. My neighbor tried to explain that she needed to get to a medical appointment, and Karen responds with, "And I need to pick up my kid." My neighbor then gently reminded her that she was blocking a driveway illegally. And that's when Karen asked, "Well, where else am I supposed to park?" My neighbor suggested another street, a little further away, that had ample parking that time of day, and to walk. But Karen was having none of that. This mother decides to play the "I'm disabled" card, arguing that she could not possibly walk that far to the school to get her kid. To which my neighbor kindly pointed out that the school had plenty of handicapped parking right by the main entrance. And that's when the Karen starts cussing out my neighbor. In the end, my neighbor had to call the cops on her and she got a warning to never park there again. This did not improve relations between the residents and the school. Guys, I am just shaking my head so hard at this. Like, blocking someone's driveway is one thing, but pretending that you're disabled when asked to move is horrible. And something tells me that she's not gonna learn, guys, even with police called on her, because there's plenty of driveways out there that need blocking. I work in an electronics repair shop that does all kinds of work, mainly cell phones and accessory sales for most of the stuff we fix. Employees usually get there 20 minutes before the store opens to take care of opening duties. That's normal for any kind of job. That means that sometimes we'll have people waiting at the front door when we get there. So on this day, I'm heading to my shift when I notice someone riding my bumper, a silver SUV. When I got over to turn into the back parking lot, surprise, surprise, the SUV turns into the front parking lot and was parked right outside the front door. Now, I don't acknowledge anyone outside before open unless they come to me. And if they're just asking if we're open, I'll have them wait inside and usually take care of the customer a bit early. Well, this lady, a Karen, follows me inside. And as I was disarming the security system, she tries to force 2 iPads in my hand. And this is how it went. I say to her, "I'm sorry, but we're not open for another 20 minutes, ma'am. I can't take your iPad right now. You'll have to wait until then." Karen says, "But I need to drop these off. I work at 10 o'clock. I say to her, "If you'd like to wait inside, that's fine. As soon as I'm done with opening duties, I can check you in." And at this point, I want to note, I haven't even turned the lights on yet. Karen goes on and says, "But I'm here right now. I can't wait that long. Just take my stuff and fix it." I just tell her, "Ma'am, it's gonna take me 20 minutes anyway to test your devices and create the tickets, but I need to open the store first." The lady is clearly not listening to what I'm saying because she says, "But you're here. That means you're open, so you can work." Again, I say to her, "Ma'am, the store doesn't open until 10 o'clock, gesturing to the open sign." And at this point, she's getting annoyed and she says, "Oh, it's close enough. Just hurry up. I don't have time for this. Besides, you've let me inside already, so you're basically open." I just say to her, "Okay, give me 10 minutes. I'll go as fast as I can to open up for you." The lady says, "What? No, do it right now. I need to drop these off." Again, I tell her, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but no. If you'd like to wait, you can. It'll be about 10 minutes. Otherwise, you'll need to come back when the store is open." Now at this point, I feel the woman isn't comprehending anything I'm saying because she's just repeating, "But you're here now. You are open." I've had enough at this point, so I tell her, "Ma'am, the store's not open until 10 o'clock. I've offered you a space to wait, and I said I'd take you in early, and you refused. I can't help you any further at this point, so please leave." The woman does protest, but in the end, she says whatever and leaves. But big surprise, she came back later, like 10 minutes before close, with the same 2 iPads. And my coworker helped her this time. He took her devices, offered her a discount for bringing multiple devices, and then I hear this from up front. My coworker tells her, "All right, the total on pickup is $182.43. They'll be ready for you by early afternoon tomorrow." And the woman says, "Oh, no, I can't come back. I was gonna wait for them. Just fix them right now for me." My coworker tells her, "Ma'am, this will probably take a couple of hours each. We're only open until 7 o'clock. The woman screams, "It's 6:50. Just start right now. I'll wait." My coworker tells her, "We leave the store at 7 o'clock, ma'am." And that's when the woman says, "Oh, no. I got here before close. I will wait. It's okay." At this point, I just tell the manager that that's the lady from this morning. And the manager goes up front and says, "Ma'am, I overheard a bit of the conversation. It's gonna take 4 hours for your repairs. I'm not making my tech stay until almost midnight. We're leaving at 7 and you'll need to leave then too." Upon hearing the manager say that, she immediately enters a customer rage and screams, "Your shop is a waste of my time. I'm never coming back here again." She then storms out without her iPads, and she didn't come back to pick them up for 2 weeks. She paid in full. She didn't make a peep on payment. I do feel sorry for her family. Hey, at least she didn't complain about payment, right? Because she seems like the type that would ask for an extra discount because she was inconvenienced. Also, I really don't know what I'd do at that point. Like, if someone just left 2 iPads with me, screaming that they'll never be coming back again, and left, I'd assume that's it. I wouldn't even go about repairing it at that point. Like, what entitlement though, right? Just stay and repair my iPads. I'll just wait until you're done. No ma'am, we all have lives here. So this happened last month, and I'm still not over it. This was the craziest event in my new house since I moved in. So let's start from the beginning. Last month, my son asked if he could have friends over since we're having a get-together for our family. I say sure, no problem, since I already know the parents of the friends, so I'll just make a couple of calls and I'll invite them too. Fast forward to the weekend. I have everything set up, the food is cooked, and just about ready to have a good time. After 20 minutes, the guests start showing up, and some are my family, my sister, brother-in-law, nephew, and mom. And then my son's friends and parents show up. Everything is up and running. Now, the last parents that show up with their kid, I always knew the father, but I've never met the mother. And the kid was always a little on the troublesome side, but really never anything serious. But today, this all changed. Let's call the boy Joe for simplicity's sake. The party's going well, and everyone's comfortable, enjoying each other's company, and the kids are having a blast. I did set up some rules for the kids to make sure that everyone's outside and not running in and out of my house. One rule is, if they have to use the bathroom, to go through the back door since it's the quickest way to the bathroom. And only my son was allowed to bring any toys out to play with. Since everything they needed was outside anyways, everyone agreed. But Joe had a little whatever look on his face. After I explained the rules, Joe's dad went to him and he said in a stern voice, "Do you understand the rules, Joe?" Joe responds with a sarcastic tone, "Yes." Now, the way the dad asked, I figured that he was tired of Joe and his nonsense with following rules. And at this point enters his wife. She speaks up for Joe and says, "You don't have to talk to him like that. Joe understands, so just let him play and stop talking to him like he's a kid." So he just tells his wife, "I know him, and you know how he is when we let him do whatever he wants." He doesn't listen, and I'm not going to be embarrassed by lack of respect. I'm going to go get a beer. He then says to me, "Come, let's take a walk." So on the way to the cooler, he tells me, I'm sorry for that, but she lets him get away with everything, and I'm not gonna have that behavior while I'm here. I just tell Joe's dad, it's cool, come on, let's get a beer. So as me and Joe's dad are having a beer, sharing stories, that's when my son comes to me to say that Joe needs to use the bathroom, and can he bring out the Nerf guns? I say sure, just make sure you close your bedroom door when you're done. So my son and Joe run inside, and I think nothing of it. After a while, I see Joe's mom looking like she was ready to leave, while she's been on the phone the entire time. After 5 minutes, my son and Joe walk out with the Nerf guns and start passing them to the other kids. And that's when I see Joe going to mom and telling her something which I couldn't hear, but he was excited about something. Mom just goes back to her phone, and I'm thinking, okay, what's that about? I just ignored it. My son then goes back to the house to get his phone to record the gun battle with his friends, and this is how it went. My son runs back to me and says, "Dad, I can't find my phone." I ask him, "Did you plug it in my room again?" He tells me no, it was in my room on my bookshelf, I swear. So I go inside and I look for it. He checks under his bookshelf and underneath his bed with no luck. I ask him, was someone else in here with you? My son tells me, just Joe. He helped me with the toys after he used the bathroom. Now in my mind, I'm fuming. I know it was probably Joe, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. So I say, well, come on, let's go back outside and ask him if he took it. I also had to prove it was him, but I had an idea. I go outside and talk to Joe's dad and say, hey, I need to talk to you. Joe's dad asked, what's up? And I tell him, I think your son took my son's phone. So Joe's dad calls him over, and that's when mom looks up pissed. Joe looks in shock as he walks over to see what dad wants. He has a mixed look of guilt and fear on his face. And at this point, his mom comes in screaming and says, I told you to stop yelling at him. Joe, let's go. Joe's dad tells him not to move and then looks at his wife and says, where's his book bag? She says, why? He didn't do anything wrong. So I chime in and say, my son's phone is missing and Joe was the only one in my son's room, which he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Hearing that, mom gets enraged and says, my son doesn't have to steal anything from nobody. I knew you were on some BS when I met you and you treat my son like crap since he's been here. F you and F that phone. Now at this point, I take my phone out and I call the number to my son's phone. And I see Joe running to the car as he realizes what I'm doing. They run to the front of my house, where I see Joe trying to get into their car, but unfortunately it's locked, and Karen has the keys. She then screams at Joe and says, get in the car, we're going home. You don't need to be around these garbage people. She then opens their car door, and as soon as it opens, I hear the ringtone of my son's phone. Joe looks like he crapped a brick, and Mom's face just drops like a cartoon character. I say to them, "Give me the phone right now." Joe goes for his bag, but Mom closes the door on his hand, almost breaking it. And that prompts Dad to scream, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I then watch as his wife hits him right in the mouth and all hell breaks loose. I'm just trying to break everything up. It was straight chaos. This all happened in 10 minutes and someone just calls the police and they show up with 3 cars. After the police break everything up, they question everyone and they called an ambulance for Joe since he was screaming when they got there. Joe's dad was put in a separate car to question him, and Mom was telling so many lies that I'm surprised her teeth didn't fall out. And this is where the nice cop comes in. The nice cop says to her, "Ma'am, we were told that you are the reason for this incident, and it was a stolen phone involved from this house." She just screams at the cop and says, "My son didn't steal nothing. They accused him of stealing the phone. I have money. We don't need to steal from these bums." The officer asked her, "So where's the phone now?" That's when I say it's in the car in his book bag, which she closed the door on his arm when he was going to return it to me. And then she hit her husband in the face. The officer just asked if I can prove it, and I say, yes, I can. I can call the phone. At this point, Karen knows that she's screwed, and all the color drains from her face. The officer says, "Ma'am, please unlock your door." So she unlocks the door, and the cop hears the ringer and asks my son to unlock the phone just to make sure, and he does. They let Dad out of the car since everyone's story was the same, but they tell him to catch a ride with someone else. Dad says, "But officer, this is my car and I don't live with my wife at the moment. She got a ride with me and I'd like to follow the ambulance so I can make sure my son is okay." The cop says to him, "Okay, sir." He then looks at Karen and says, "Ma'am, you're gonna have to..." And that's when she interrupts him and says, "That's my effing car. You're not taking my effing car." The officer says to her, "Ma'am, stop yelling. This is not helping your situation at all. You're coming with us for assault on your husband and your son." So while they're trying to handcuff her, she takes a swing at the cop and she fails horribly. She then gets taken to the ground and they cuff her. I hope she'll spend some time in jail for the assault and taking a swing at the officer. Joe's dad apologized for everything, but I know it wasn't his fault. Guys, what a wild story. And shame on that Karen mom. Like, way to go, lady. You encouraged your son to steal from a friend and then started attacking everyone when caught. What a great example she's setting, right? So here's a little backstory. I used to be a server at an Italian restaurant in my town that thrived on regulars to keep us afloat. A lot of the regulars had specific servers that they liked and they would ask for, and we built relationships with these people, mostly because they tipped us better. On this day, I'm at a local tapas bar across town, and on a date. It wasn't busy. So we stroll in, and the hostess takes us to our table. I then excuse myself to go to the washroom to wash my hands. On my way out of the washroom, a couple of my regulars are sitting at a table, and they see me. They flag me over and ask how I was doing. I tell them why I'm here, and we chat for a minute, and they made a couple of jokes about me being on a date. All of that was in good fun, and I tell them to enjoy their food and start to return to my date. And this is when I'm stopped by a round top of what I can only assume would be lookalikes of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. There was 5 of them total, and it looks like they've just been seated, as they were not at the table when I went to wash my hands. And for all of you wondering, there was one with the "Can I speak to the manager" haircut, who we'll call Karen, the leader of the group. 2 others look like your generic southern suburban housewives, and the other 2 look like they belonged in some trashy club downtown. How this motley crew was formed, I will never know. Now, I was dressed well for this date. I was wearing a nice collared gray shirt with a black sweater and slacks. I guess it could have been easy to mistake me for a server or a busser or something, as the waitstaff has button-down shirts. So I'm walking by when housewife number 1 flags me down and says, "Excuse me, can you take our drink order now, please?" Before I could tell her that I'm not a server, Karen chimes in. She says, "We've been waiting like 5 minutes. And the Book of Service Excellence says that your server should greet you 30 seconds after you're seated." Now this is funny because I know this to be true because we follow the same rules at our restaurant. I say to her, "I'm so sorry ladies, but I'm not your server." I'm then interrupted by Karen, and she says, well, since our server isn't here or thinks we're not worth his time, you can take our drinks. I'll have a Red Bull vodka and a water along with an appetizer for the table. I say to her, miss, I don't think you understand. I don't work here. Now I'm only this patient because my server instincts kicked in. Wife number 1 then says, why are you lying? I saw you talking to the other table over there. Now why won't you help us? Is our money not good here? Wife number 2 says, what? Are you too good for me and my friends? Do you want us to leave so you can go serve those old white people over there? At this point in time, the girl I was with and my regulars saw what was holding me up, and they were watching all of this transpire. I say to them, guys, I seriously do not work here. I'm actually on a date with that girl. I then point at the table behind them, to which the girl, let's call her Sally, gets red from 5 heads snapping in her direction. Housewife number 2 hasn't said anything, and I think she's understanding. Karen says to me, I want to see the manager. Maybe he can show you how to provide good service. I say to her, hey, you're not getting it. I'm not your server. I'm a server at a different restaurant, and that old white couple are my regulars that I saw by coincidence. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna return to my friend and finish my evening. I then begin to move past them towards the corner table, and that's when Karen grabs my sleeve of my sweater, and she demands very loudly, I want to see your manager. It was at that moment I saw what I assumed was an employee start to approach the table, but after her outburst, which brought the restaurant to a screeching halt, they turned around and went to the back. Out came a tall man wearing a tie, and he approached the group, along with Jim, one of my regulars. Karen then proceeds to tell him that I'm an awful server, and that she is so shocked that he would allow any person as disrespectful and unintelligent as me to work here. That's when Jim says, he doesn't work here, you effing idiot. Hearing that, the Real Housewives of Atlanta all have a look of shock on their face, like this 60-year-old man just shot their poor husbands, or cats. The manager says, this kid is not a server here, so please let go of him. I then yank my sleeve away from her after an intense but short stare-off with her. Jim then says, you must be some special kind of stupid. I then return to my table, and Sally just starts giggling. The restaurant has pieced together what happened, and they begin talking about this and snickering, while the Real Housewives of Atlanta just sit there, mortified that they made themselves look like a bunch of a-holes. So Karen does what any entitled housewife would do at this moment. Deny, deny, deny. She says, it was clearly my mistake for assuming the restaurant could hire decent help. She then got up and clicked her way out, followed by the rest of the motley crew. I'm really happy that their actual server didn't have to deal with them. Guys, the only thing worse than one Karen is 5, right? And what OP should have done is take their drink order, said, coming right up, and then gone and sat down with their date and let management come deal with them. With that said, Jim's response was pretty badass though, right? Letting Karen know that she's a special kind of stupid, and that's gotta hurt. So this happened a few days ago. I had gone on my usual shopping trip with the help from my friend Teresa who works there. I always appreciate the help as I feel nervous being by myself due to my autism. Well, while I was shopping, this one lady, a Karen, kept trying to steal stuff from my cart while I was comparing prices on products. I managed to catch her a few times, and I asked why she was taking stuff I was buying. She then said this to me. She said, you can always get replacements. Stop bitching. I was shocked she would do this to me. I started getting stressed, and I was breaking down as the Karen starts ripping into me about my stutter. Here's a few things she said. She said to me, stop talking, you're like a broken record. Are you dumb or something? You need help to talk? You're pathetic. So of course I start sobbing, and the manager's called over the radio. The Karen is told to leave me alone, and that if she kept bothering me, she would be banned for harassing a disabled girl. Karen then calls my friend Teresa the N-word and a snitch, and then she leaves. I manage to get myself together after Teresa and the manager help calm me down. Teresa gets approval from the manager to run my shopping through, to get the stuff on my shopping list, while the manager kept me company at the customer service tills. Teresa came back after about 5 minutes, and she helped run the items through the checkout, with the manager taking 10% off my total as a discount for not losing my temper at the Karen. A taxi was then called for me, and I waited outside in the parking area, and Teresa comes out to make sure I'm doing okay. My eyes were a bit puffy, and my face was a bit red. And that's when Karen from earlier comes to the parking lot, and she spots me. She says, You caused me so much effing trouble tonight." She then marches up to me and tries to kick me. Well, I was sitting/leaning on the edge of those pole things on the edges of the parking areas. As soon as I moved, when she went to swing a kick at me, a crunch was heard, and she broke her effing toes. The woman is now screaming for help, crying assault. An ambulance was called for her, and she screamed that she would see me in court. The ambulance comes and takes her away, with the police being called as well. The manager showed the police the CCTV footage of the parking area, showing that all I did was dodge her. The police chuckled a bit and asked to talk to me. The police were done in about 10 minutes, and the manager offered to take me home instead of paying for a taxi. I felt guilty about the taxi, but I said yes. I then went home. Also, manager, if you're reading this, thank you for taking care of me. I'm sorry you had to tell my mom what happened. Oh my freaking goodness. Guys, I don't feel bad for Karens who try to attack other people, get hurt, and then cry assault. Like, what's she gonna say? "Oh, help me, officer. I went to kick this person and they moved and my foot got hurt." Serves her right though. And one more thing, I would not have been able to contain my laughter if that happened, guys. And I know you shouldn't laugh at other people's pain, but that Karen deserved it. So my stepson, who's 19 years old, got kicked out of his mother's house after stealing and selling a very expensive item from her husband. He was going from a friend's house to another until my husband brought him in. I wasn't thrilled to have him in the apartment given his reputation, but he was almost homeless and needed help, so I agreed to let him stay with us until we worked something out with his mom. Truth be told, he's pretty respectful. He helped with chores, washed ours and the neighbors' cars for cash, so I thought he had changed. But something strange started happening. My $3,000 necklace disappeared once, and I found it in the bathroom cabinet. Then it disappeared again, and I was lucky to find it, but it was somehow hidden under the couch when I found it. I started realizing that my stepson was attempting to steal the necklace, but I kept finding it when he hid it. I then decided to wear it to keep it safe. So Monday evening, I was napping in my bedroom while my husband was at work. I fell into a deep sleep, and then suddenly, I got woken up by a feeling of someone's fingers on the back of my neck. It was my stepson, and he was trying to force open my necklace's clasp. I was lying on one side, and I turned and I saw him, and I started panicking. And he took some steps back, telling me to calm down. I sit up and start yelling, asking what the heck he was doing. And he started stuttering. I figured that he was trying to steal the necklace from me, so I yelled at him to get out of my home and then called my husband crying. My husband got home and tried to work the situation out by making his son apologize. But I said I won't have him here any longer, that I don't feel safe anymore after he tried to snatch my necklace while I was sleeping. This wasn't even the first time he tried to steal the necklace. My husband said that his son had nowhere to go and it would be cruel to kick him out. But I demanded that he leave. He then went to a friend's house and my husband got back and he picked a fight with me. He said that I'm putting him in a position to choose between his son and me. He kept convincing me to let him return and promised to make him swear that he won't do it, but I refused. I'm honestly worried and I can't be sleeping with both eyes closed with his son in the house. So am I the a-hole for leaving my stepson potentially homeless? Yeah, I don't think OP is the a-hole for kicking her stepson out, guys, because really, who wants a person like that living with them? And there's 3 possible scenarios as to why the stepson's doing this. Number 1, he's stealing and selling things to pay for a secret drug habit or something. 2, he's stealing and hiding OP's necklace just to mess with her. Or 3, her stepson's a kleptomaniac. Like, no matter what the stepson's reasons are for stealing, if OP doesn't feel like she wants him in her home because she doesn't feel safe anymore, then tough luck, because her stepson has shown an alarming willingness to steal her things, even right off her neck, which is freaking wild, guys. And that's just where it starts. Like, maybe next time he might even get violent when OP refuses to give up her things. But guys, let me know what you would do if you're in OP's shoes. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled guys. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, a Karen grandma calls the cops on OP because he refuses to be her servant. It's such a wild story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.